Several years ago, myself and several ministers in our church were asked to come together and to go to our local jail in Nassau County to encourage men who were locked up, who wanted to attend worship service at the county jail's chapel. And so they needed some people to come. And so we volunteered to come. And the men would come in on a Sunday morning being escorted in by the guards. They would come in, being handcuffed, being escorted in, being sit down in certain sections, and they were given the opportunity to exercise their freedom of religion, uh, to be able to participate in a church worship service. And so they would come on this second Sunday. Myself and a group of other ministers from our church and some other ministers from some other churches would come with us. And so we were responsible to perform a church service and have a praise and worship song, have a scripture reading, share a brief message, have a brief word of prayer, and then they would be escorted out. But one of my first rules that I established with the men, because I was the kind of the point person over this, was that I said to the men, you will not be addressed as prisoners. You will not be addressed as inmates. You will not be addressed as criminals. You will be addressed as men. You may have made a mistake at this time in your life right now. You may have made some bad decisions in your life at this time in your life, but you will be respected. And so when you're going to encourage men who are discouraged, especially when they are behind bars in the prisons, you have to be respectful. If you're going to come and to encourage men who are in a homeless shelter or staying in a halfway house, you have to be respectful. Well, because we set that ground rule, initially when the men came in, men like we are, we can be very, manly. We don't want to smile and we don't want to be engaging. And so they were hard looking. They gave us this hard look, like saying, what are you people doing here? You are wasting our time. This is just our free time just to get out our cell. We are not listening to you. Leave us alone. Got it, censor, I can't, no swearing here on the live stream. But guess what happened over a period of time, every second Sunday that we showed up? There began to be a transformation in their demeanor and in their attitude and in their hearts, where they began to be engaged in the worship service, so much to the point those of us who were going out to the second service, that service in the morning, we said to some of the members of the church, sometimes these men know how to engage and be involved in church more better than people who are free in church, but they are imprisoned in their mind. We began to see a transformation in them. One in particular, man, that comes to mind when I first saw him, if you've ever seen the movie Con Air with Nicolas Cage, and there was this gentleman who is a serial killer. He had this mask on. He had these chains on. He was being escorted, and being on the plane, they didn't want, they had all these guards around, and that's what he reminded me of. He had this spit mask on. He had chains on his wrists. He had chains on his feet. This brother was a hot mess. But as he came, every time we were there, slowly the mask came off. Slowly, the chains on his ankles came off. The only thing that he had on him was the chains around his wrist. Most of the other men that were in there didn't have any handcuffs on. But he in particular had cuffs, chains on him in the mask. And eventually, he slowly began to, the guards began to take him off of him, because they began to see a transformation and a change in his demeanor and his attitude. Because the spit mask, from what I understood, was that sometimes he would spit at other men in the jails, or he would spit at other guards. So that was the reason for the spit mask. And then because of his violent temper and attitude and getting into confrontations, they would have to restrain him with chains on his wrist and his ankles. But him being in that environment, being respected, being in a place where he felt people were being authentic and real and willing to listen to him, he began to get encouraged.